What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Steel to Stone channel. So we're going to be testing the 9cr18mov on the Civivi Ortis. Like I told you guys we would be doing. I wanted to do the normal performance test that I do with the steel, but on this particular knife I felt like that would be a mistake given the super thin geometry that it has and the very fine tip that it has. I knew it would just kind of destroy this knife if I tried to do that with it. And I thought about just doing a regular edge retention test on cardboard for you guys, but I kind of wanted to do something a little different. So I came up with another test that we're going to call the simulated EDC cut test, and we're going to do that instead. So you can see you can see how sharp that knife is. It's just, I don't even have to touch it to my arm and it pops the hairs off. But we're going to cut several different types of media with a 1-inch section and see how well this edge holds up. Instead of just cutting a bunch of cardboard or cutting a bunch of rope, we're going to cut all of those things at one time and see after it's done what kind of edge we've got left over. So we're going to do 50 cuts through 1-foot sections of cardboard. You can see this piece right here I've got covered in fiberglass reinforced packaging tape. We're going to be doing 25 cuts on this board and then 25 cuts on a plain piece of cardboard. And this will sort of simulate breaking down boxes as well as opening about 25 packages. So by the end of the test, we'll have a lot of different types of media cut and really understand how this will hold up after, a month or several months or, maybe even a year of use, depending on how often you use your knife. So getting to the end of this part of it, this packaging tape, the fiberglass reinforced packaging tape, is brutal to a knife edge. And you can see it's covered in the tape residue after I cut all that. So I got some Goo Gone and cleaned it off. And I just decided to take the tape off and not use any because I don't think it's very necessary, honestly. Clean it off, and now, just after that first 25 feet, the shaving sharpness is gone, going through that fiberglass reinforced tape. Still cuts the receipt paper though, and still cleanly slices copy paper. So yeah, that tape is brutal. I cut 20 pieces of that tape one time with a Rex 45 edge, and it dulled it out pretty good as well. So I knew that might happen where we'd lose that shaving sharpness pretty quickly. And then another 25 feet of cardboard here. And at this point, it wasn't shaving at all. If I put a lot of pressure on it, I could get it to take 1 or 2 hairs off my arm, but that was pretty much it. And then it started hanging up a little bit on the receipt paper, but was still pretty cleanly slicing the copy paper after the 50 feet of cardboard and the packaging tape. So you can see there, it's still pretty cleanly slicing that copy paper. And then I had a lot of trouble getting this to focus on the edge for some reason during this test, but it's sharpened at my normal progression, 800 grit stropped on 4 and 1 micron, 17 degrees per side roughly. And then here's the 1/4-inch sisal rope. We're going to do 50 cuts through this. I never realized how hard this stuff is to cut with a halfway dull knife. This is not something that I normally cut on a regular basis. So it took me a second to figure out the best way to go about cutting through it. And what I found was just really you kind of put the tip down and just sort of push through it is sort of the best way if you don't have a really sharp knife. But man, I tell you what, if I was to cut this stuff every day or on a regular basis, I would probably be carrying like a S110V blade with a 600 grit or lower edge on it with no stropping, just a really aggressive toothy edge to cut through that stuff. And then, I stopped about 3 times during cutting the sisal rope to check the edge against the copy paper, and it was doing pretty good the first time I stopped. And then once I got to about 30 something cuts, I noticed a little catch in the edge, and it really started to slow down. And by the end of it, when we got through all 50 cuts, it was still cutting the paper, but it was a little more ragged and starting to catch a little bit. There was one nick in the edge, but for the most part, at this point, there was no real damage, no chips or rolls or anything. It was just kind of blunting it out, just kind of rounding that apex over, I guess, if you will. And then moving on here to the zip ties. We cut the ends off of each zip tie, and I was really impressed during this. The thin geometry of this blade is just phenomenal. I mean, you see it went right through those plastic zip ties like they wasn't even there, even with a half dull edge. So pretty impressed with the geometry on this knife. And then once I figured out the best way to go about cutting these zip ties off, I was able to just kind of push right through them. And then I cut through the very last one. So did a great job with the zip ties, didn't cause any more damage. No chips or anything like that. The zip ties I cut with the factory edge actually caused some deformation at the edge and some reflection back to me in the light, where that didn't happen during this test. So again, more proof that after you sharpen a knife a couple times, it holds up a lot better for whatever reason. Just fatigue or burnt edge from the factory. So, and then the last thing we're going to do is chew into this piece of hardwood for a little while. I was going to try to cut through it, but it was hard to do at the very end of the blade, and actually messed up right here. I was trying to put some lateral pressure on the edge just to give it a little bit of a harder test with that thin geometry, and that turned out to be a mistake with the very end of the blade, because as you'll see here at the end, it actually bent the tip of the knife a little bit to the left if you're looking at it straight down the spine. And yeah, I told you guys in my initial thoughts on this knife that if you wasn't careful with it, you would damage it. And what did I go and do? Bent the tip on mine, but not a big deal. I had to repair a knife with geometry sort of like this several months ago. It was a Kershaw Blur, Tonto shaped Kershaw Blur with the 14C28N, I believe. And I just took a pair of needle nose pliers and was able to bend the tip back straight. So I may try that with this one. Maybe I'll do a video on it so you guys can see. With steels like this, you can do that. I wouldn't imagine attempting that with Maximin or K390 or anything. Maybe you could do it, but I'd be a lot more worried about it than I am with this. If I break this one, then I'll just regrind it or something. Given it's a $40 knife, it's not as big of a deal. But definitely if you buy one of these, be a little more careful with it than I was, or you can pretty easily damage it. I measured the end of the blade at the tip, and it's about 16 thousandths wide at the very end of the blade, so that's not very thick at all. And then I'm pretty impressed with 9cr, if I'm honest. I think it held up really well to this. Didn't cause any damage. There's one little nick in the edge from probably that fiberglass tape, but for the most part it just dulled it out a little bit, and it pretty much killed the edge out. You can see how sharp the bottom of the blade is, and then see right here is just catching and dragging along. Really barely able to cut through it. Just the geometry, I imagine, is what's getting it through it at this point. But yeah, pretty impressed with 9cr. I thought that this would be enough different types of media and enough quantity that it would dull the knife out, and I was correct. And I think this is a good test. So you guys let me know what you think about this, and maybe we'll do more of these in the future if people like it. Just sort of like a simulated use test to see how a knife will hold up over time with different types of abrasive media and just different media in general that you would normally cut every day. So yeah, definitely let me know what you guys think of this, and hopefully you think it's a useful test. I think I do, and we can do it on different knives as well and see how other steels hold up to the same quantity of stuff. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you guys are having a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.